Hello YouTube, today I'm back with another Speedpaint video. What I have in store for you today is something I did for an art jam. So the theme was fear, and we have 1 week to make something with that theme. I decided to go with the Luigi's Mansion theme, as you can see by Luigi, and I'll explain some of the choices I made along the way. I only got the idea to start recording and doing like a time lapse and stuff once I was like already done with all the blackouts and stuff. So you can see we're kind of in medias res here, but I'm going to start the play right now. My idea was to have Luigi, and he's sort of like exploring a mansion, and he's got like this ghost behind him. This ghost in particular is a fan-made character. No, I don't think any particular person is responsible for it, but she's known as Boosette. So to put some history behind that, basically back when New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Switch was being announced, they gave a new power-up, and you can play as Toadette, and when Toadette grabs that power-up, she becomes Peachette. And that sort of spawned a whole internet rabbit hole. Look that up at your own discretion. But I decided to go something with a little bit different with my design for Boosette. Most people just make her kind of just Peach, but a ghost. And I wanted to kind of stray away from that with my design. I wanted to go more of like horror inspirations with it, which is why I sort of gave her like this tattered up t-shirt. Or I guess not really a t-shirt, more of a long sleeve shirt. I tried to go with some inspiration from like there's this one horror movie of like this ghost crawling out of a TV, and I kind of went with that for the sort of the shirt and the hair. Her hair is also modeled after a Boo. It's got like the two strands pointed out, and it's got like a tail strand. And I could explain more of that once I'm moving over back to Boosette herself. But now we're moving on to Luigi. I've already blocked out most of his basic shapes. So the way I tend to do things is I like to block out the shapes with like basic colors. That way I can sort of like mess with the overall silhouette and the structure of it all. Because I'm not like a construction lines person. That's just not my background in art. I've not done that. I don't really come from a traditional art background. So but yeah, the way I work is just kind of moving with rough shapes, kind of like painting almost. You'll see me like painting all of these areas here on the nose, for example, and on the face. I'm sort of like painting the areas where the shadow should be in, and I'm kind of moving like one layer at a time. So I'm going to do like the base tone, and I'll do like the mid-tones and stuff like that. I typically only work with like 3 or 4 total colors across like a shade spectrum, if that makes any sense. But yeah, just working across. This particular color palette is known as Endesga 64. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's just a good palette. Found it on low spec, so check it out if you want to. I experimented a bit with some lighting there, which is why you might have seen his face turn blue for like a second. I do more of the lighting and stuff towards the end of this video, when I sort of like do some polishing up on it. Do work on the eyes. Decided to make his pupils really dilate because he's going to be terrified, dude. I wanted to make Luigi look as scared as possible, so I used a lot of references from the actual Luigi's Mansion and from the Simon reveal trailer for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, since he also made a guest appearance in that as well. So yeah, I worked on a little bit of that line work earlier. So the way I do line work is kind of interesting. So I will like go through and put like a 2 pixel wide outline throughout the entire thing, and then what I'll do is I'll sort of like taper it off or maybe add to it in certain areas. For example, the tip of the hat has a thicker outline to sort of emphasize its shape. Here we go through. Speaking of hat, I'm almost done shading at this point. Did a couple things. Tried to experiment with yellow. I wanted to keep it mostly clean. Moving over the shoulder. I'm doing this off the cuff, so I don't actually have a script for any of this. I'm just kind of doing it as I see it. But yeah. Alright, moving back on to Boosette. So here I'm doing sort of the same process I did for Luigi, where I sort of like outline the entire sprite. And then for stuff that's like overlapping, so like the shirt and the hands and the face, for example, I'm using like a 1 pixel wide outline instead of 2 pixels. That sort of makes it a lot easier to read, because if everything was 2 pixels, it would sort of feel like chunky, and it just wouldn't like feel very professional, in my opinion. But yeah, I go through and just sort of outline where all the basic shapes are, and then I'm going to go through and actually shade everything. The shading process was interesting for both of them. I think I actually kind of used sort of a different approach for them. With Boosette, you'll see lots of like, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's like, it's kind of like a lot of straight lines, sort of shaping the form of the shirt. It's kind of hard to describe, but like if you look at the texture of her shirt and the texture of Luigi's outfit, they're very different. And I want to give Boosette a more like tattered and like kind of like old feel, because I figured she's a ghost. She's probably been dead for a really long time. That's kind of that's what I wanted to imply with her outfit as well. Doing some line work on the tail. And then the outfit was pretty interesting. I had to introduce more colors than I originally anticipated in order to sort of get the form that I really wanted. It's also kind of difficult because like she's in kind of a strange posture. Her like she's doing like a I don't know what you'd call it, she's about to scare Luigi, so she's got like her arms sort of like bent up. I mean, you can see the pose obviously, but like her shoulders are kind of up. She's kind of like bent over a little bit, or like hunched over, I guess. And yeah, that sort of made it difficult to sort of like see where everything was supposed to be, which is why flipping the canvas is especially important. You may notice that I zoom in and out a whole lot. It's exasperated here on the recording because it's played at like 25 times speed. But yeah, I really do zoom in and I flip the canvas a lot. So it helps me like refresh my view, so that way I don't just get used to seeing the same thing over and over. See like that, just for example, you're gonna see it all in the video. Did some shading on the face. I wanted to give her like really runny mascara, sort of like get the theme of her being like really spooky and stuff like that. Doing the hair, I haven't really done like this. She has like more anime hairstyle than I've actually ever done. Also got the crown there. You gotta include the crown, or else it's not Boosette as well. I've never really done anime hair before this point, so it was interesting to sort of learn how to do it. I definitely looked at a bunch of reference photos for actually how to do it. But yeah. Her hair, as I think I said this before, but her hair is modeled after a booze shape. For example, it's got like the two hands, and it's got like the tail in the back as well. And then for the lower hair, I sort of just made it darker because it's behind her and it's also kind of below her head, so it's below where the light source would be, air quotes there. I do a lot of work with the background. It's very dark, like the background is very dark, and I wanted to keep it that way because I wanted it to feel like spooky and encroaching and stuff like that. The hands were also very interesting to do. I think I probably could have pushed the pose for the hands a little bit more. Like they're kind of just like Lego hands a little bit, but I think they're mostly fine. Also had to put a little bit of nail polish because I also want to give her more of like an emo vibe, a little punk emo vibe. And I think that works pretty well. Doing some extra little bits of line work, and then moving on to the crown. The crown's more or less pretty simple. Moving on to Luigi's hands, the flashlight was particularly troublesome for me because one, it's like a cylinder, and two, it's at like a weird angle. It can be kind of difficult to get rounded shapes in pixel art because the resolution is so low, and it being at an angle definitely did not help. I sort of kind of struggle to get the general shape of the flashlight here. But in the end, I think it turned out pretty well, and I guess my excuse would just be it's supposed to be polygonal because the original Luigi's Mansion was on the GameCube, even though it wasn't that obvious. And I had a quick flashlight effect. Add some more definition around the sort of head of the light bulb. I experimented a bit with the lighting here, decided I didn't like it, and then I just moved straight onto the background. I record each of these segments in like chunks, so there's a little bit of the background already done. So yeah, I kind of just jumped straight into moving the door. I wanted to go with like a really weird, wonky perspective for this. Like, want it to feel definitely off. So the door is way off in the background, and like everything is like super wonky. The perspective's all at like an angle, like a Dutch angle. And I think that helps because with Luigi's Mansion, there's not a whole lot of like 90-degree angles. Everything is at like some sort of acute or obtuse angle. And that sort of gives it like this weird, like spooky yet sort of playful vibe. I experiment with giving different things different colors, but in the end I just kind of kept it monochromatic because I thought that would just kind of work better in keeping the vibe spooky, and also the colors were kind of distracting from the main characters. The background is more or less just shapes and just a little bit of like using the dark for some shading, get some like definition. I tried to make like a lamp and a ceiling fan for it, but they were pretty tricky to get like looking right at this perspective. So we're just getting some of like the finer details in the background, get some lightning in the window. I lighten up the area next to the window, sort of show that the lightning is like striking and it's like flashing light into the area. Again, I want to keep it really simple so as to not distract from the characters. So I do a little bit of animation, and here I do tweak the colors just a tad bit. I generally desaturated them and then also hue shifted them a little bit more. I think I'd shifted it to red, even though it probably should have been more towards blue. Again, making sure everything's all right. Gave it a little animation with her just kind of like hovering around. And then here is the final image. So this was my work for this week's Art Jam, and I really hope you like it. I really like how it turned out, and I'm really happy with the result. I might do more of these. I might not. It kind of just depends on what kind of ideas I have, and if I think those ideas are good, then I'll actually end up recording them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, if indeed you are still here. Yeah, thank you.